I still remember the smell of the hospital room, bleach, fear, and cheap coffee. Jean lay in that white bed, her skin as pale as the sheets. The doctor said she might not make it. I told him he was wrong. "I'll fix this," I said. "I'll save her." Before I tell you how I got my revenge, hit that like button and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Trust me, you'll want to hear how this ends. I worked 2 jobs, nights and weekends. Sold my truck. Sold my tools. Even pawned the watch my father gave me when I turned 18. Every dollar went to keeping Jean alive. Some nights, I'd fall asleep in that plastic chair beside her bed, holding her cold hand and whispering that everything would be okay. I meant it. I believed it. Then one morning, she opened her eyes and smiled. "Tim," she whispered, "I think I'm going to make it." Those words were the best sound I'd ever heard. I felt like I'd beaten death itself. When she came home, I made her favorite dinner, chicken soup and cornbread. We should have been happy, but she just stared out the window, quiet, distant. "You okay?" I asked. She smiled a little too slow. "Yeah," she said. "Just thinking." I didn't know it then, but what she was thinking would destroy everything I'd built. When Jean came home, I thought the worst was over. The doctors said she was a miracle, but I knew it wasn't luck. It was sacrifice. I'd given up everything to keep her breathing. The house felt strange at first. Her laughter was softer, her hugs shorter. I told myself it was the medicine. I didn't want to believe anything else. Every morning, I helped her walk around the yard. She said she wanted to feel the sun again. I held her arm and watched her face glow in the light. Those moments made the long nights worth it. I told her I'd rebuild everything we lost. She just nodded. Weeks passed, and her strength returned faster than I expected. She started going out alone, to the store, she said. I offered to drive her, but she refused. I wanted to trust her, so I did. That's what love is, right? Trust. At night, I'd lie beside her, watching the woman I nearly died saving. But sometimes, when she thought I was asleep, I'd see her scrolling on her phone, smiling at something. Someone. I didn't know it yet, but my real fight for life hadn't even begun. If you like our revenge stories, please subscribe for more. We drop powerful news stories every week, filled with truth, emotion, and justice. Don't miss the next one. And remember, some stories hurt, but they heal too. Subscribe now, and join the journey. The day the doctor said Jean was cancer-free, free from the illness, I cried like a kid. I didn't care who saw. Every drop of sweat, every sleepless night, every dollar I'd bled for, it all felt worth it. The nurse said I was lucky to have her. I wanted to say she was the lucky one. We went home with balloons, cards, and leftover cake from the hospital staff. I carried her over the doorstep, laughing like we used to. For a moment, life felt normal again. She kissed me and said, "You're my hero." Those 3 words filled every empty part of me. I promised her a second honeymoon when we could afford it. She smiled, but her eyes looked far away. I brushed it off. Maybe she was just tired. Maybe I was overthinking. That night, I held her close while she slept. Her heart beat steady against my chest. I thought about how close I'd come to losing her. I told myself I'd never let her slip away again. But the truth is, you can't hold on to someone who's already planning their escape. At first, I ignored the little things. Jean started locking her phone, turning it face down on the table. She'd get texts late at night and say it was her friend from the hospital. I wanted to believe her, so I did. That's what love does, it blinds you, gently. One night, I came home early from the shop. Her laughter drifted from the kitchen, light and happy, like it used to be. But when I walked in, she went silent. "Who were you talking to?" I asked. Just Mom, she said quickly, slipping her phone into her pocket. I nodded, pretending to believe her. I told myself she deserved privacy after everything she'd been through. Still, something inside me started to ache. She began going out more often, saying she needed fresh air. I stayed home, cooking, cleaning, waiting. Sometimes she'd come back smiling, wearing new perfume I'd never bought. At night, I'd roll toward her in bed, but she'd turn away. The woman I'd saved was slowly becoming a stranger beside me. The cracks were forming, quiet and invisible, but deep enough that one day, everything would shatter. It happened on a Sunday morning. The sun was bright, but our house felt cold. Jean sat at the kitchen table, sipping coffee without tasting it. I could tell something was coming. You don't fight death together and come out strangers, not unless one of you already left in your heart. I asked if she wanted to go for a drive. She didn't look up. We need to talk, she said. My stomach dropped. She folded her hands, calm and distant. Tim, I appreciate everything you did for me. You saved my life. I smiled weakly. That's what love is. She looked me straight in the eyes. I want a real man. For a second, I thought I'd misheard her. The room went silent except for the ticking clock. My throat closed. A real man? I whispered. She stood, grabbed her purse, and said, You're good, Tim. Just, not enough. The door closed behind her before I could move. I sat there for hours, staring at her untouched coffee cup, the ring mark staining the table I built with my own hands. That's the day my heart cracked, and the man I was died quietly in that kitchen. When Jean left, the silence came first. It wasn't just quiet, it was heavy, like the air had weight. Every sound I made felt wrong, too loud for a house built for two. Her coffee mug still sat by the sink. Her jacket hung on the chair. She took the kids but left the small things, as if to remind me what I'd lost. I tried to stay busy. Fixed the leaky faucet. Folded laundry that wasn't hers anymore. Cooked dinner I couldn't eat. Nights were the hardest. I'd reach across the bed, half asleep, still expecting her there. My hand always met cold sheets. I told myself she'd call. That maybe she was confused. But days turned to weeks, and the only calls I got were from bill collectors. The money I'd saved was gone, spent on her treatments, her recovery, her new life. One night, I stood in the doorway of our kids' empty room. The toys were still on the shelf, waiting. I sat on the floor and finally broke. I had saved her life, but I couldn't save my family. And in that quiet house, I realized I was the one who needed saving now. After Jean left, life turned into a blur. I woke up every morning but felt like I never moved. The shop stayed closed. The tools lay scattered where I'd dropped them weeks earlier. Work calls went unanswered. People stopped coming by. I barely ate. Most nights I drank straight from the bottle, sitting at the kitchen table where she'd told me she wanted a real man. Those words replayed in my head until they felt carved into my skull. Bill collectors left messages. My truck needed repairs I couldn't afford. I ignored everything. The only thing I couldn't ignore were my kids' drawings taped to the fridge, smiling stick figures with "Dad" written in shaky letters. One night, I found myself standing on the old bridge over the river, the same one I drove across to visit Jean in the hospital. The water below looked calm, inviting. I thought about letting it take me. Then I heard my father's voice in my head, words he always said, "You don't quit, Tim. You fight." I stepped back from the edge. I wasn't ready yet. I had nothing left, but somehow, that meant I had nothing to lose. I hadn't been to Murphy's bar in years, but that night the neon sign pulled me in like a lighthouse. Inside, the air smelled of beer, old wood, and tired men. I slid onto a stool at the end, ordered the cheapest whiskey, and tried to disappear. The bartender nodded but kept glancing at me. People in this town knew my story. The man who saved his wife, only to lose her. The fool. An older guy sat 2 stools away, nursing a pint. He looked rough, but his eyes were sharp. After a while he said, "You're Black Tim, right?" I didn't answer. He went on anyway. "I know about Jean. Everybody does." I stared into my drink. "Then you know I don't want to talk." He leaned closer. "I used to work for Dane, the guy she's with now. You think he just showed up? He was around while she was sick. Setting it up." My hand tightened around the glass. "What are you talking about?" He tossed a napkin at me with a number on it. "Call this if you want the truth." Then he left, just like that. I sat there shaking, the napkin burning in my hand. I stared at that napkin for 2 days before I called. The number led to a familiar voice, Chester Pike, my old foreman, the one man who'd never quit on me. "Tim," he said, calm as ever, "we need to talk." We met behind the old lumber yard where we used to pick up supplies. He looked older, rougher, but his handshake was still solid. "Heard what happened," he said. "Couldn't believe it until I saw the paperwork myself." "What paperwork?" I asked. He opened a folder. Inside were invoices, messages, and signed contracts, Jean's name next to Dane's, dated while she was still sick. My stomach turned. "They planned it," I whispered. "Looks that way," Chester said. "Dane wanted your company. Jean wanted out. You were just the bridge they burned to cross." I felt the world tilt, but not from pain this time. From purpose. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you're better than what they made you. But if you want justice, I'll help." For the first time in months, I felt the old fire return. The kind that builds, not breaks. I looked him in the eye. "Then let's get to work." Chester and I sat in his truck long after sunset, the folder spread across the dashboard. Every page painted a picture of betrayal, emails between Jean and Dane, payment transfers, and my company's blueprints with Dane's signature at the bottom. I wanted to punch something, but Chester stopped me. "You lose control now, you lose everything," he said. He was right. Rage wouldn't fix this. Strategy would. We started small. I called old clients, pretending to check in. A few mentioned the new contractor, Dane's firm, built on my stolen designs. I kept notes. Dates, quotes, addresses. Then Chester found something big. One of Dane's new contracts used my company's expired safety license. Illegal. That was our opening. I contacted an old friend in city planning, Mara, sharp as a tack, and still owed me a favor. "If you can prove that license fraud," she said, "he's finished." That night, I went home and stared at the empty workshop. The sawdust smelled the same, but everything else was different. This wasn't grief anymore. It was fuel. Jean had stolen my love. Dane had stolen my name. But I was taking back both, piece by piece. For weeks, I lived a double life. By day, I reopened the shop, quietly, carefully. By night, I dug through every corner of Dane's empire. Chester helped with records. Mara slipped me documents she accidentally found in city files. What we uncovered made my blood boil. Dane hadn't just stolen my business, he'd stolen my reputation. He told clients I'd gone bankrupt from drinking and depression. Claimed he rescued Jean from my failures. The worst part? People believed him. But evidence doesn't lie. I found matching invoices under both our company names, same project, same numbers. Classic double billing. Fraud, clear as day. One night, Chester dropped a flash drive on my table. Found these in a deleted server. Dane's emails to Jean. I clicked one open. It read, "Once he's done paying the bills, he's done for good." My hands trembled, but I smiled for the first time in months. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't weak. I'd been targeted, and now I had proof. Chester leaned back. "What's next, boss?" I looked at the screen, eyes hard. "We build the case. Quietly. When it's ready, they won't see it coming." For the first time, revenge didn't feel dirty, it felt just. Revenge, I learned, wasn't about rage. It was about patience. Every nail, every board, every plan I'd ever built followed a blueprint, and this one would too. Mara helped me file quiet reports to the city's fraud division. Not enough to alert Dane, but enough to get attention. Meanwhile, Chester contacted old suppliers who still owed me favors. They agreed to accidentally delay Dane's materials, slow his projects, and leak contract details back to me. I kept my shop small but steady. Word spread that I was rebuilding, and old clients started calling again. Each one who came back was another piece of ground taken from him. Then came the bait. I offered a public bid for a huge housing project, a job I knew Dane would want. Chester grinned when he saw the proposal. "You really want him to bite?" "Oh, he'll bite," I said. "He can't stand seeing me rise again." The bid used fake specs, harmless but traceable. If Dane stole them, I'd have proof of corporate theft. That night, I stood in my workshop, staring at the plans. The game had begun. For the first time since Jean left, I felt alive, not broken, but building again. It didn't take long. 3 days after I submitted the fake housing bid, Mara called. "Tim, you're not going to believe this. Dane's firm just filed a nearly identical proposal, down to your fake drainage specs." I felt a dark smile tug at my mouth. "He took it." "Oh, he took it," she said. "And the city flagged it. They're opening an investigation." I hung up and sat in silence, the kind that feels electric. For months, I'd been the man who lost everything. Now, for the first time, I was steps ahead. Chester stopped by the shop later, his hands still covered in sawdust. "You look like a man who's seen a ghost." "Better," I said. "I just saw karma." He laughed, then turned serious. "You sure about this? Once it starts rolling, there's no stopping it." "I'm sure. I want him to feel everything he made me feel, slowly." That night, I drove past Dane's new office. Through the glass, I saw him shaking hands with a client. Jean was there too, smiling like she hadn't burned down our life. I didn't feel pain this time. I felt focus. The first domino had fallen, and I was the one who pushed it. By the end of the week, the whispers started. Contractors were pulling out of Dane's projects. The city had frozen 2 permits pending investigation. To the outside world, it looked like bad luck. But I knew better, it was the blueprint unfolding exactly as I'd drawn it. Mara called again. "City inspectors found inconsistencies in Dane's bid files. They're matching your designs, Tim. He's in trouble." "Good," I said quietly. "Let him sweat." Meanwhile, Jean posted smiling photos with him online. A new house. A new car. A new life. She looked happy. But behind those photos, I saw the cracks, the small details only someone who truly knew her could spot. Forced smiles. Nervous eyes. Chester came by the shop one afternoon. "You see the papers?" he asked, tossing one on the table. The headline read, "Local builder under review for fraud claims." I stared at it for a long time. "He's starting to feel it," I said. Chester nodded. "And her? She'll feel it too. Not through headlines, but when she realizes what she threw away." Outside, thunder rolled over the hills. Storms coming, I thought. But this time, I was the one holding the hammer. The call came late, almost midnight. I was in the workshop, sanding a beam, when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something in me knew. I answered. Tim, her voice. Soft. Shaky. Jean. For a second, I couldn't speak. The sound of her saying my name hit like a hammer to the chest. What do you want? I asked flatly. She hesitated. It's about Dane. Things are bad. The city's investigating him. He's blaming me. I didn't know, Tim, I swear. I laughed. A bitter, quiet laugh that didn't sound like me. You didn't know. You signed every paper, Jean. You smiled in every photo. Tears filled her voice. I made a mistake. Please, can we just talk? I looked around my shop, every scar, every tool, every rebuilt piece of my life. Talk. I said. You had your chance when I was on the floor begging you not to leave. Tim, please. But I'd already made my choice. You picked your side. Now live with it. I hung up and set the phone down, my hands trembling, not from anger this time, but from release. She wanted forgiveness. I wanted justice. After Jean's call, sleep became a stranger. Every night I replayed her words, her tears, her sudden fear. She was cracking under pressure, and Dane was turning on her. Exactly as I knew he would. 2 days later, Mara sent me a report. Dane's firm is under full audit, she said. They found forged documents. If he can't explain them, he's finished. I thanked her and hung up. Then I drove out to the job site Dane had stolen from me. Half the workers were gone. The rest stood around, waiting for orders that weren't coming. The proud company sign out front had been spray-painted, thief. That night, I got another call, from Chester this time. Tim, he said, Jean showed up at the yard. She's a mess. Says Dane hit her. Wants to see you. I froze. For a moment, the old part of me, the man who once would have done anything to protect her, rose up. But then I remembered the motel nights, the betrayal, the empty house. She made her bed, I said quietly. Now she's lying in it. Chester was silent for a long time. You sure you're okay with that? No, I said. But I'm done saving people who destroyed me. It happened faster than I expected. One morning, Mara called with a tone I hadn't heard before, satisfaction. Tim, it's over. The city shut down all of Dane's projects. Federal investigators are involved now. He's being charged with fraud, forgery, and tax evasion. I didn't speak for a moment. I just stared at the rising sun through my workshop window. He's finished. Completely, she said. And Jean's testifying against him. I hung up slowly, letting the words sink in. I should have felt joy. Vindication. But instead, there was only quiet relief, like a storm that finally ran out of rain. By noon, every news station had the story. Local developer accused of multi-million-dollar fraud. Dane's picture flashed across the screen, smug grin replaced by fear. Chester dropped by with a newspaper and a grin. Guess you got what you wanted, huh? I folded the paper and set it aside. Justice isn't about what I wanted, I said. It's about balance. He nodded slowly. And her? I looked out the window at the workshop I rebuilt with my own 2 hands. She's part of his ruin. That's punishment enough. For the first time in a year, I felt something close to peace. Jean showed up 3 days after the news broke. I heard her car before I saw it, the same silver sedan I'd once saved money to buy her. It pulled into my driveway like a ghost returning to the scene. She stepped out slowly, sunglasses hiding her eyes, shoulders slumped. For the first time, she looked small. "Tim," she said quietly. "Can we talk?" I leaned against the porch railing, arms crossed. "You already said everything that mattered." Tears welled in her eyes. "I was wrong. About everything. Dane used me. I thought I loved him, but I was stupid. I lost our kids, our home, you." Her words hit something deep, but I didn't move. "You didn't lose me, Jean. You threw me away." She took a shaky breath. "Is there any chance we could?" "No," the word came out calm, steady. "You made your choice. I made mine." She nodded, tears falling freely now. "I just wanted to say I'm sorry." I watched her leave without another word. When the car disappeared, I exhaled, slow and heavy. Forgiveness wasn't coming, but neither was hate. Just distance. And that, I realized, was freedom. A week after Jean's visit, my doorbell rang. I expected a delivery, maybe Chester, but instead, two small figures stood on the porch. My heart stopped. "Dad!" Piper shouted, running straight into my arms. Colton followed, taller now, eyes shining with tears he tried to hide. I dropped to my knees and pulled them both close. For a moment, the world stopped spinning. Jean's parents stood behind them. Her mother spoke softly. "She asked us to bring them here. Said this is where they belong now." I swallowed hard. "Thank you." When they drove off, the house filled with the sound I'd missed most, laughter. Piper explored every room, touching the walls like they were old friends. Colton found my workbench and smiled. "You kept it, huh?" "Didn't change a thing," I said. That night, we ate spaghetti on paper plates in the living room. It wasn't fancy, but it was home. As the kids fell asleep on the couch, I looked around at my rebuilt world. No wife. No wealth. But everything that mattered had found its way back. I whispered, "We're whole again," and for the first time in a long while, I believed it. Having the kids back changed everything. The silence that once haunted the house was gone, replaced by laughter, music, and the sound of life returning. Piper's drawings covered the fridge again, and Colton helped me in the workshop after school. At first, they were quiet about their mother. I didn't push. One night, while sanding a shelf, Colton finally asked, "Do you still hate her, Dad?" I paused, brushing sawdust from my hands. "No, son. Hate's too heavy to carry. I just learned what to never forget." He nodded slowly. "You mean, trust but verify?" A small smile tugged at my lips. "Exactly." Piper came in holding a handful of nails. "Can we build Grandma a table?" she asked. "Sure can," I said. "But only if you promise not to quit halfway." She giggled. "I won't. I'm a Hutchkins." That night, as we sanded and laughed, I realized rebuilding wasn't just about wood or walls, it was about hearts. Every board we nailed down was a piece of our life being put back together. The house I'd once seen as a graveyard for memories was alive again. And this time, we were building something no one could tear apart. It came in the mail on a quiet Friday morning, a plain white envelope, my name written in familiar handwriting. I knew who it was before I even opened it. Jean. For a moment, I just stared at it, coffee growing cold in my hand. Part of me wanted to toss it in the fire. But another part, the part that still remembered the woman I once loved, needed to read it. Inside was a single page. Her words were shaky but clear. "Tim, I don't expect forgiveness. I just want you to know I'm sorry, for what I did to you, to the kids, to myself. I thought I was chasing happiness, but all I found was emptiness. You were the only one who truly loved me. Take care of them. Please tell them their mother loves them." I folded the letter slowly, the paper trembling in my hands. Piper ran in, holding a hammer. Dad. You coming? I smiled faintly. Yeah, sweetheart. Be right there. I slid the letter into a drawer, not out of anger, but closure. Jean's chapter was finished. Ours was still being written. And this time, every word would be honest. Spring came early that year. The air smelled like sawdust and second chances. The shop buzzed again, orders rolling in, old clients returning, and new faces trusting the Hutchkins name. I never thought I'd hear that sound again, hammers, laughter, and music playing from a dusty radio in the corner. Colton worked beside me most days now, learning every trick I knew. He was quick, steady hands, sharp eyes. Piper handled the paint and always managed to splash more on herself than the walls. I didn't mind. Every stain was proof that we were living again. One afternoon, Chester leaned on the doorway. You did it, Tim, he said. Built your life back from ashes. I looked around at the shop, my hands, my kids, my crew. Didn't do it alone, I said. He smiled. You never were alone. You just forgot. That night, I locked up the workshop and stood outside under the stars. For the first time, the past didn't hurt, it just existed. I wasn't rebuilding what I lost anymore. I was building what came next. And as I walked toward the house where laughter waited, I realized something simple and true. Survival had turned into strength. It was late when the call came, almost midnight again, just like the night Jean first called me months ago. This time, though, the voice on the other end wasn't hers. Mr. Hutchkins. My name's Ryan. I don't know who else to call. My wife's sick, and something doesn't add up. The hospital bills, the paperwork, it all feels wrong. A man named Chester said you might understand. I froze, the phone pressed tight to my ear. Another man. Another story starting the same way mine had. Bring everything you've got, I told him. We'll meet tomorrow. After hanging up, I sat at my desk staring at the motel key hanging on the wall, room 107, the symbol of my lowest point. But now, it wasn't about pain. It was about purpose. The next morning, Ryan showed up with a folder full of forged documents, just like mine had been years ago. I spotted the fake signatures immediately. When he looked up, desperate, I said quietly, "You're not crazy. You're being conned." He broke down right there, and I put a hand on his shoulder. Helping him wasn't revenge anymore. It was redemption. Ryan's case opened old wounds, but it also reminded me why I'd survived mine. With Mara's help, we turned his evidence over to the authorities. Within weeks, his wife's so-called doctor was exposed for running a fake treatment scam. Ryan kept his home, his savings, and, most importantly, his faith in people. When it was over, he shook my hand hard. How do I ever repay you? You don't, I said. Just help the next person who needs it. Word spread faster than I expected. Soon, I was getting messages from people all over, men, women, families, each one carrying their own story of betrayal and recovery. I started meeting with them, one by one, not as a victim, but as someone who'd lived through the fire and come out stronger. Chester called it my second business. I called it purpose. One evening, Colton asked, "Dad, why do you keep helping people like that?" I smiled. Because once, someone helped me when I couldn't help myself. He nodded like he understood. That night, as I closed the workshop, I looked at the sign over the door, Hutchkins Construction, we build what matters. For the first time, I knew exactly what that meant. A year later, I stood in my rebuilt workshop, the same place where everything had once fallen apart. The sun poured through clean windows, lighting the same workbench I'd nearly abandoned. Only now, it wasn't a place of loss. It was proof of what could rise from it. Piper was painting a bookshelf for her grandmother, humming softly. Colton measured wood beside me, steady and proud. Chester laughed with the crew in the background, teasing the new guy about crooked cuts. The smell of sawdust and coffee filled the air. Home. My father dropped by, slower these days but still sharp as ever. He looked around, nodded, and said, "You did good, son. Real good." I smiled. "Guess I finally learned what you meant by trust but verify." He chuckled. "Took you long enough." I glanced at the motel key hanging above my workbench, room 107, still rusted, still there. Not as a scar, but as a reminder, rock bottom isn't the end. It's the foundation. As I locked up that night, I whispered to myself, I saved her once. But in the end, I saved me. And this time, I wasn't rebuilding for survival. I was building for life. If this story moved you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more powerful narratives, and share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear what part hit you the hardest. Thanks for watching.